Shell Ecomarathon is unique in that I know of no other program that brings, in the Americas alone, 1,200 students together every year to tackle some of the really exciting challenges associated with energy, with mobility, with the future of cars.
We're kind of moving to where we want options. So we might not just want an electric car or a gasoline car. We might want a car that can operate on both types of fuels.
In Shell, it's great to be supported by our top leadership, to have a very innovative, wide thinking. And in my role, I look into the integration of everything. So Ecomarathon, for example, I think is one of the examples.
It's an interesting way to be a catalyst, getting all these companies together.
Our objective today is to look at this urban nexus of people, mobility, and technology, and how they're coming together, and specifically how they're coming together here in Detroit.
I have to commend Shell for just making this happen, because without this catalyst, the subsequent conversations and the ideas and innovations would not have happened.
It's a massive event. I mean, I've been blown away by the scale of this event, the sheer number of competitors.
We have over 1,000 students here, over 120 teams from over 100 schools.
A number of the members of the public that come down here. Of course, this is a great media draw as well. So we've got lots of media that wants to cover this event. So there are any number of opportunities to tell any number of stories.
It's pretty fun. They got a bunch of fun activities. They got like soccer and a bunch of stuff going on at the Kohl Center. It's super cool. They got a bunch of stuff. It's pretty great.
Okay.
Super fun.
All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now this is your weekend. It's your weekend to prove to us what this next generation of innovators and leaders looks like.
It was actually a lot of fun being able to start right from scratch, brand new vehicles. It was a great learning experience for the team.
We want to improve. I mean, that's what we all want to do.
These young people are applying their creativity in a real hands-on way to actually build a real product and compete that product right here on the streets of Detroit. I don't know of many other programs that are like that.
This is why, and I'm so grateful for Marvin and Shell for doing this. The team came in to pitch me on the Ecomarathon. It took about 30 seconds. I said, you don't need a long pitch. We're all the way in.
Well, I think it's just a tremendous program, really, to inspire our young talent. And the fact that Shell has created this great program and is promoting it for a number of years with such a wide variety of individuals is just outstanding.
Detroit is becoming once again the icon and the sort of centerpiece for innovation for mobility going forward. Detroit's reinventing itself. It's a great time to be part of that reinvention here for us as Shell, and it's a great time to be part of working with our OEMs in this town.
Oh, it's so big a deal because stuff like this shows that Detroit's very much alive and growing.
It's a lot of work, not a lot of sleep, but it's worth it.
We have a constant demand for bright, young, technically minded people to work on our projects all over the world. And I think an event like this is a great proving ground for that kind of skill set.
We had a lot of fun this year and we're really excited to come back.
Next year is gonna be awesome.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today to learn a little bit more about Shell Ecomarathon. I'd like to start with some introductions. My name is Pamela Rosen. I'm the General Manager for Shell Ecomarathon Americas. I have with me today my Technical Director for the Americas, Adrian Juergens, and I have a couple of our student teams that participated in the event that you just saw that we held this past April. We have the University of Toronto. They were our America's winner, so this is the team that got 3,421 miles per gallon equivalent. So we can talk to them if you guys have questions as we go through this. Think about, what sort of questions you would have for them for that sort of achievement. And then we have University of Michigan. Of course, you saw her in the film, and they are your hometown team. So think about, from a local perspective, from a state perspective, what do you want to know about how they got their team together, maybe how you can join as well. So let me start with what is Shell Ecomarathon. So you got a good grounding of what happened when we were here in April. Shell Ecomarathon is a global competition. It's open to high school and college students. They can build teams, and the goal here is for them to design, build, and test the most ultra energy efficient vehicles. We drive them on the roads of downtown Detroit, so that was a street track in downtown Detroit. The goal is not speed. These cars are not fast. The goal is to go the furthest on the least amount of energy. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I have an example of the fuel tank, right? So this is small. We're talking milliliters here. So we're not talking about massive bits of energy fueling these things. Now the other thing is that, we've come to Detroit. This event is not new. So globally it's been running for 30 years. So Shell Ecomarathon Europe just celebrated its 30th anniversary. We brought it to the Americas in 2007. So we started out in Fontana, California on an inside track at the Auto Club Speedway. We took the event to Houston in 2010, and that was the first time the event was in a city setting like that on urban streets, but it was around a park, so it wasn't truly through the skyscrapers. With the move to Detroit, that brought us to the truly urban environment, into a road course that had a lot of elevation changes and some real challenges for the students, but really began to mimic that real-world environment. So think of them as your beta testers for what mobility could be like in the future. So with that, you saw that we brought a public experience as well. So the students register for the event. It's free. They don't get charged for anything, but they have to raise all their own money. So they have to get sponsors, and they have to build the cars themselves. And then we open the event up to the public. So you can come, you can talk to the students as they're getting ready to get on the road. You can do the experience. You saw kinetic soccer. There are some other things there. We have some of those assets with us today out here at Maker Faire. Now then, what I'd like to do is have Adrian talk a little bit more about this student challenge. So you saw a couple of different cars in the film, and we talked about energy sources. So Adrian, if you will talk about the vehicle classes, please.
Sure. What's unique about the Ecomarathon, as opposed to other events that are actually all over the world, is we actually offer two vehicle classes. One is what we call the prototype classes, which is really your aerodynamic design. It looks like a little rocket on 3 wheels. I'm sure you've seen those out there. And if you come out to our booth outside, we can actually show you 2 of the teams that have that. The second class is what we call the urban concept. The urban concept is more street-like, similar to what you would call the smart car on the road today. So it could conceivably be a car that we would use in the future. The teams are allowed to have artistic liberty with the designs of their cars, as long as they meet the dimension specifications and the safety specifications. The same thing with the urban concepts. Teams are also allowed to choose the size engine that they want to use as well, as long as it all meets within the weight category. Also, what's also significant about our event is that teams are allowed to choose up to 7 energy sources. For example, gasoline, diesel. Then we have the alternatives, ethanol, GTL, which is gas to liquids. We also have battery electric, hydrogen, and for the first time in 2015, CNG was introduced into the competition. And so also, this is a global event. We have one in Asia, we have one in Europe, and we also, of course, the Americas. And the teams come all the way from Canada, all the way down to Chile. It is a year-long preparation for these teams. It takes quite a bit of work to reach that 4 days that they come to Detroit to see what they can do with their car. It's a lot of hard work. They have to go through technical inspection, and I'm sure they'll share the horrors of having to go through that, because that's what my team does. Two aspects of the technical inspection. One, safety. The cars all have to meet safety requirements, and then the second, of course, is technical requirements. Okay?
Thanks for that, Adrian. So let's move to the teams now. Let's talk about how you approach the design and build of your car. So, Mankey, if you want to start for University of Toronto.
So, hi everyone. My name is Menchie, and I'm representing the University of Toronto up in Canada team. We were the competition winners this last 2015 season. So, I'm so sorry. Could you just quickly repeat that question again?
So let's tell everybody how you approach the design. So you all decide you want to get a team together, you talk people into it, and then how do you go from there?
It's a complicated and iterative process, but basically what happens is our team in particular works on 1-year design cycles. So starting shortly after April, which is usually when the competition is held, we start computer-aided design for the next generation of vehicle, and we break the vehicle design down into 4 or 5 main categories. We have the drivetrain, which is the engine or the motor. We have the aero body, the general build of the car that all the components go into. We have steering and general vehicle internal components that are auxiliary to the drivetrain. And then we have driving strategy, which is a huge part of the development of how we're going to use the product that we develop. It's all broken down, developed separately, prototyped, tested, brought together a few times, usually fails the first couple of times, and then we'll start again. And more often than not, we'll actually come to competition with some of the parts not working, and we'll have to kind of build them and get them to work on site. So the first 2 days of competition are usually spent troubleshooting systems we didn't get working. But usually it turns out well for us. So that's our design cycle.
All right, so Madison, you want to talk a little bit about University of Michigan?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Madison, and I represent the University of Michigan Super Mileage team. Our cycle is actually fairly similar to University of Toronto's. We actually are moving to a 2-year design cycle, which is a little different. So instead of designing and building our car in 1 year, we do design the first year, and we build the year after. This allows us to work out some of the kinks that pop up inevitably when you design your car. Sometimes you think something will fit, and the cars are so small that sometimes, it doesn't end up working, and we want to try and avoid having to work during the competition as much to get stuff working. So that's kind of our motivation behind switching to the 2-year. Yeah, we break down our stuff similar. We have a driver interface integration team, which is it involves basically everything the driver interacts with, so the steering and everything in the driver compartment. We have an engine team, race strategy, and body, so it's pretty much the same.
Thanks. So, Madison, so let's stay with you for a minute. How many members total on your team?
We have about 20 active members. It's split into 4 sub-teams, as I said before, each with a sub-team lead. So it's fairly simple, easy to.
And you all are in the College of Engineering?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you come up with your design, you've registered for Shell Ecomarathon. You just go away and design it, or do you talk to this guy a lot?
I've been told we correspond with Shell quite a bit, but I have never had the pleasure of actually talking to them before the competition.
So we do host Google Plus webcasts, and we have other opportunities. So yeah, let's talk to University of Toronto. How about you guys? How many members on your team altogether?
So again, we have a really similar setup here. Our team is about 25 at the beginning of each school semester, and then by build season, it dies down to about 10 to 12. Which happens because students get busy. And we have a similar breakdown where we usually try to divide the team up roughly equally across the different parts of design. But again, ultimately at the end, everybody kind of comes together and ends up doing everything just because the team shrinks and things get busy. There's a lot of overlap between the designs. I don't know if any of you had a chance to see the vehicles, but our vehicle is only about 10 feet long and maybe not even 3 feet wide, 2 feet wide. So all the parts have to be integrated very closely, as Madison was saying, and so it becomes very necessary for us to work very closely together. Yeah, was there a part of the question that I'm missing?
No, so you guys also are all in the School of Engineering?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So once you all get here, you've worked on your car, you've submitted certain designs, so you all can't just come with it without working with us and submitting things online. So why don't you talk about how you work on that?
Okay, so there's 3 major phases leading up to competition that we have to worry about. The first preliminary phase is just to submit your intent for registration. That happens usually, I believe it's around October, if I'm not mistaken. I can't quite remember the date on that.
We'll open for registration in August this year.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, with a submission in early first semester is what I remember. And that's just to communicate your intent. Then we have to we have to gradually submit our safety and technical specifications for our design later on in the second semester of school, just to make sure that we are on track that we're aware of what rules we have to follow prior to the competition, so that we're not doing an entire design cycle with the wrong specifications. And usually we have like dedicated members of the team that kind of keep in touch with Shell throughout the design process to make sure that we are up to date on any design specification, safety, rule requirement changes, as well as I know with the seminars we participated a lot more early on when the team started off, when we didn't have a full understanding of some of the requirements or how logistics worked and stuff. So those were helpful early on for us.
So Madison, why don't you talk a little bit about how those submissions that you send in early end up making a difference when you need to go to technical inspection here?
I can't answer that question, actually.
No? All right. So Adrian, why don't we talk about that?
What is really unique from my perspective as being part of the Ecomarathon is I actually get to answer their emails all year long. They will send their technical questions to the Shell Ecomarathon America's website. They will forward me the email. I will respond. Sometimes it may take 2 or 3 emails, but we address whatever question they have as quickly as possible. I usually try to respond to all their emails within 24 hours because I know they're waiting for an answer before they go to the next move, unless I'm mistaken on that. So they need that answer right away. So they have access to the technical team all year long. That we have to be careful as technical team members is that we are not building their car or designing their car for them. We can't say, yes, this is the best way. We just say, yes, this is a way you can use it. It's still up to them to design and make sure it is efficient as possible. So another avenue that the teams can use is also Facebook. I don't know if you guys have ever used that, but they can actually connect on Facebook. You can go to the Facebook webpage as well and see the interactions because students can ask other students and other teams what they're doing as well.
So Adrian, when the teams get to the event, your team is going through technical inspection just like a motorsport event. So you guys, I know it's Motor Cities, there's a lot of races going on. In fact, there's one this weekend. They can't just get on the track right away. What do they need to do?
Correct. Once they get on site, they're registered and they're in their paddocks area, the first place they have to come to is the technical inspection area. They have to pass the safety, and then they have to pass the technical area. They're not allowed on the track unless they have assuredly completed the safety inspection. That is a requirement. So obviously this can be a little tense moment for teams who want to get out there. And we do also have an indoor test track that they can utilize, but there again, they have to meet the safety aspects. Some of the teams struggle with technical, and so they can use the test track to help work out their technical problems as long as the car is safe to go on the road. Now, when they come out there, this is not just some walk in the park inspection. This is very grueling for the teams. The average car can spend an hour or and a half going through this inspection process and not pass it all the way. So they'll have to come back once they've made the corrections. The teams generally have 2 days, 2 full days to get their inspections completed so they can be ready for the competition. At that point, the competition is only open at sporadic hours as my technical team needs to be all over the place during the competition. The technical team is comprised of scientists, engineers, retired Shell folks from all over the Americas. And so the students can also engage them and ask their questions. We have folks from Southwest Research Center. We have folks from SAE. We have folks from Fiat Chrysler and Hitachi all participating to help these students through the inspection process. So it's very extensive, and I would encourage you to actually come out to the event, and you can actually watch these cars go through inspection and see what they go through.
So, Menchie, you all made it through technical inspection. You all got out onto the track. You ended up with some challenges, but ultimately you logged the top achievement in the gasoline prototype category. Tell everybody what were some of the things that you think contributed to being able to hit that 3,421 mile per gallon equivalent record.
Okay, so I would say there's really no aspect of the vehicle that can not be completely custom tailored in terms of design for this purpose. So our most immediate and obvious one, I guess, would be the fact that we had a team of 2 students out of our main core 10 who dedicated 100% of their time to designing and manufacturing a custom internal combustion engine. So that's just like a standard gasoline-powered engine. It's about 45 cc's, 1 horsepower, and it was designed just for the purpose of being put in this car. It looks a little bit like a coffee maker. If you have a chance to go take a look at it, doesn't look like an engine at all by conventional standards. Single cylinder 4-stroke. So that engine is run only a fraction of the time that we're actually on track. So I guess this brings us to the next part, would be our driving strategy. Is something that plays a huge role in us achieving mileage in those ridiculous numbers, is that we only run the engine when it's necessary to apply power to the drivetrain, and otherwise the car cruises on the momentum that it's given. And then that ties into our aerodynamics and our very low drag. So our vehicle is shaped like a long teardrop. It is it's about a ½ meter high, so that makes it, like 1.5, little over 1.5 feet tall. The driver's basically lying down in the vehicle as we move forward. It's on 3 wheels, and the entire shape of it is just literally, it looks a little bit like the cross-section of an airplane wing, if you could imagine that, for perfect aerodynamics, as close as we can get. Then there's all the internal components that we use as part of the drivetrain of the vehicle, so that's the wheels, the main drive rig in the back. Everything is custom tailored to have the lowest possible rolling resistance as our wheels, our steering, the mechanism that we engage our drivetrain to our tire in the back with. Pretty much everything we could think of is fine-tuned for specifically fuel efficiency.
So I'm sure you guys probably have a few questions. So I'd like to open it up to you all and see if you have any questions for us or for the students. Yes?
Yeah, so do you guys actually drive the vehicles 3,400 miles, or is there some kind of math trick to actually figure out the distance on a mile a gallon of gas?
It's not a math trick, but it is math. Okay, it is an equivalency. And so when the team comes to the start tent, we fill their fuel tank, and there's a meniscus that we look at. There's a line there, and we fill it to that specific measurement based on the volume of the tank. We also know each team's fuel capacity, and it's unique for each team, so we take that. We have to determine that during the inspection, and we also take a fuel temperature measurement for the gasoline. Once they go out on the track and if they do their number of runs and it's valid and they come in, and then what we do is we fill that tank up with barrettes. That gives us a volumetric measurement. Then we take the temperature again, and then it's put into a equation which gives us an equivalency. Okay? And bear in mind, some of these teams might only use 9 or 10 or 13 mils of fuel. Others might use 38, 40 mils, just depending on the circumstances.
Are they allowed to enrich that fuel with anything besides giving energy?
No, the fuel is provided at the event. Everybody is driving on the same fuel. They're allowed to do whatever enrichment they want with the engine, but the fuel has to be left alone, and also the oil.
So in our case, our vehicle is pretty much 100% composite materials. That's carbon fiber. It's just a carbon-based, almost fabric-like weave. We pour resin into it and let it set into the shape that we want, basically. So there's, even structurally, there's almost no metal in the vehicle. I'm not gonna lie, we have not done enough simulation to be able to give an accurate answer to that. I know it's extremely low, but I cannot give you a number.
I can't either. Sorry.
You had a question?
Yeah, for the wheels, are they just standard bicycle wheels, or are they custom confection?
So the wheels, the tires that we buy are from Michelin, and they are pretty much custom designed for an efficiency purpose, if not for this competition. I'm not clear on that. They're about a standard BMX tire size. except that they have a much wider rim profile than something you would see off a shelf, on an off-the-shelf rim. And the purpose of that is just to kind of maximize surface area contact with the road so that we have the least slippage possible, and that gives us the maximum efficiency.
Actually, if you come outside, we have a booth. And you can see both these teams' cars. You can also see the Shell Urban Concept car, and you can walk all around it and put your hands on it. So come out and take a look at it. No, we don't have anything available here, but it's better in real.
It's better in real life. They're pretty
real
cool.
time. Come out there and take a look at it.
Yeah. So we have a question right here. So I'll start that, and then y'all take over. But we don't. Shell does not own any of the IP related to these cars. The teams all own that. Now, then, part of my job as general manager is to engage with OEMs and say, "Hey, bringing all these experts here, take a look at what they're doing." So you would need to actually speak with some of the teams, but I think Adrian can tell a couple of. I think he can tell a couple of stories. There's been a couple of teams where things have been picked up where they've done their own entrepreneurial work.
We have some of the teams at the collegiate level that have been able to take some of their learnings and are working in some projects for the government and some other organizations. The benefit, though, for the Ecomarathon, the way I've concluded this, is that we want to encourage students into really science and engineering and technology. Obviously, as we continue on into this century, the population is growing exponentially, fuel consumption is getting higher and higher, and we want the young people to come in and be the next solution folks that will continue to take over where we step out of the way and the young people will take over. I've got about 5 years left and I'm going to be retiring from Shell, and this is a great way for me to finish my career, to kind of just be like a farmer and maybe hopefully make the ground fertile and conducive enough to encourage students into this field. We've actually had some of our students get hired by organizations like Michelin. I actually worked with 2 students in Europe this year that were in the Ecomarathon and now work for Michelin, and they wanted to be part of the technical team. And I actually had them come up to me after the event and said, "I had no idea what you guys went through." It changed the perspective. We've had students get hired by Shell here in the U.S. We've had students that have been hired by Southwest Research in San Antonio, Texas. So it's a benefit to the students because we have companies out there and they're looking at these students. They're talking with these students, and you can engage them. And there's opportunities if you're willing to take that time. And this is a big event for you to do that with. For high schools, people say, well, what's the advantage for high schools? It's great to see some of the high school students interact with the college students and realize that some of these students that graduate end up at these colleges on the Ecomarathon team with these colleges. So it's just a great synergy across the board. But as far as new technologies, we're hoping that they'll take their ideas and take it with them to wherever they go.
Can you make a total electric vehicle entering this contest, or do you have to use fuel?
No, you can use a battery electric vehicle. Totally battery electric. You sure can.
Can you be a little more specific as far as the type of fuel you're using, octane level, any correspondence with battery operation or other things?
They don't really know what the fuel is, but for us, in the U.S., we're actually using our main grade Shell fuel, just like you would get off the pump. The diesel fuel is the same way. The alternative fuels we have to buy directly. So ethanol is rated at probably between E90 and E95 It has to have a certain amount of denaturing in it. The GTL, which is a kerosene-based fuel, alternative fuel, more so in Europe, but we offer it here in the U.S., has a high cetane number. Most folks are not familiar with GTL, so we're trying to introduce it, and some of the teams are trying it. Of course, the battery electric, they're free to use lithium batteries up to a max volt and watt level. Hydrogen, hydrogen is hydrogen, CNG. The bottles, we furnish the cylinder bottles for the team, so every team has the same weighted bottle inside their vehicles. Does that answer your question specifically?
What combination are you using, percentage-wise, as far as getting this kind of mileage?
You mean, okay, they're using gasoline. Yeah, the majority, the big winners are always gasoline. Yes, they are. But we have a winner for each category. Okay.
So when it's the electric, how do you measure the remaining electric that's left?
We actually have customized joule meters made for the event, and they are actually wired into the vehicle. So we're measuring the joules that the vehicle is consuming during the operation.
What's like the average speed and distance as this competition goes?
The competition is designed of an average speed of 15 miles an hour. It's a time competition as well, meaning they have to come in within a specific time frame for the number of laps. If they come in under that, obviously they were going faster than 15 miles an hour. If they're going slower, it'll become an invalidated run. But some of these cars, I know for a fact, I'll let them answer their question, but some of these cars can do over 40 miles an hour. I'll let the teams, if they know their own speed.
We have a pretty hefty engine this year, 160 cc's, which is way more than we need. Could probably get up to like 45 miles an hour, but I would not want to drive it that fast. So we stay around, like 20 most of the time.
Our engine's a lot smaller, so I think our top speed is probably 25, but we run it closer to 15, 20 usually.
So actually, we've gone over our time. I just want to be respectful of whomever's coming in next. But we are outside, and we're back here tomorrow as well, but we're outside. We've got a big tent. They've got their cars, so go see the cars they built and actually tested here on the streets of Detroit. We are returning to Detroit. We're going to be coming back for at least the next couple of years, if not longer. So mark it on your calendar, April 22nd through the 24th of 2016. Again, it is open to the public. If you are a high school student or you know some high school students or college students that they don't know about this yet, talk to them, encourage them to go online and think about putting together a team. It is, like I said, it's open for them to come on and build their own teams and become part of this. No charge, they just need to raise their money and get their sponsors. So thank you again.